Okay, so disclaimer. If Mark never talks to me ever again because of this video, you know why. I'm going to remove the friend hat and put the reviewer hat on. And to preface this, I should explain, I've never actually reviewed an Islander watch. I've only ever done presentations of our collaborations. And I always am 1,000,000,000% honest with my audience, even though, you know, half the brands have blacklisted me for just being respectfully, you know, critical and honest about when it comes to reviewing watches. But anyway, that's a whole other story. I've done many videos discussing that. This is one of the most difficult videos I've ever made. In fact, this is my third attempt. Like a scemo, come un scemo, I agreed to review his new release, an interpretation of the Flightmaster, a watch I've owned for over a decade, since before I started this channel, that I absolutely adore. And this is a lesson certainly learnt now. Never agree to do anything out of pure excitement without thinking it through. I agreed to review it, and I'm disappointed. And you can see where this is going, right? So cue the clip from Jurassic Park.
Hold on to your butts.
Firstly, a little context. The Seiko SNA 411, aka the Flightmaster, aka the Flighty, aka the Mighty Flighty, is one of a series of Navitimer-inspired quartz chronographs from the early to mid-2000s. Its exact history is as enigmatic as the multifuriousness of versions that seem to have sprung up since the introduction of its movement, the 7T62, in 2002. It was a continuation and simplification of the quintessentially 90s 7T34 based Flighty, itself an overly engineered beast that I also owned at one point. It was Seiko doing a victory dance in horological form by showing off just how many complications it could stuff into a pilot chronograph. You see, they not only brought the whole industry to its knees with quartz technology in the 1970s and onwards, but with also introducing the world's first analog quartz chronograph in 1983 with the Capo di tutti capi, the groundbreaking 7A28 movement. As explored in previous episodes, the name Flightmaster was actually Omega's property, but after their own failed attempt to make a speedy successor and squandering millions in R&D in the process, it became one of their biggest flops. And a real shame too, because it's a really cool watch. They gifted the name away to Seiko as a suspiciously kind gesture. Personally, I kind of always suspected it was more to do with them trying to transfer a long streak of bad luck. And maybe it worked, as Swatch subsequently bailed them out soon after, and the rest is history. So enter the Calverton. The overall scale stays largely the same, as does the bidirectional but slightly reduced calculator bezel insert, but with a much better action to it, I might add. There's finally a decent bracelet, solid end links, and a milled micro-adjustable clasp, and refreshingly less stubby lugs that previously made a pass-through strap an absolute pain in the cooler. Thankfully, also gone is the annoying 21mm lug width that basically alienated most straps. There's no Seiko hardlex, but instead a less pronounced domed AR-coated sapphire glass. My favourite improvement is the Flieger sword hands, which in my opinion work so much better as there's more surface to utilise the luminescence, along with corresponding now enlarged and thus improved applied markers. We get the same absurdly high, well, for a pilot watch at least, 200 meters water resistance via, once again, screw-down pushers and crown. But crucially, when unscrewed, the pusher protective sleeves line up flush with the inner main button, which is just fantastic, as it's not only ergonomically improved, but a visible indication of their status. The Calverton is powered by the caliber YM62A, which is essentially a 7262A, but it's a slightly updated, unbranded version aimed for the non-Seiko watch world. So we still get all those lovable bells and whistles like a dual time, end-of-life indicator, date and alarm, along with that more soulful fifth of a second sweep that gives it an impression of mechanics. It's available in 4 color options, all with logical complementary tones that add pops of much-needed functionality. Now this all sounds lovely jubbly, or hunky-dory, right? Well, not quite. This time, the devil is in some intangibly complicated details. So my wristwatch check is very deliberate today because it's my Aerospace. It's a quartz watch on a Wrist County Watch Club, the Japanese urban camo that I co-designed with them. I chose this watch because, and roll your eyes to the forward position as I say this, okay? A quartz watch with soul. And I believe the Flightmaster definitely falls under that category. And this is the problem. The Islander, I feel nothing. I struggle to feel any connection. I struggle to feel the same way, despite being technically a superior watch in every regard. Reinforces something I said a long time ago, where sometimes the imperfections is what gives, character and charm. I then proceeded to write several long scripts, analysing what went wrong, and in doing so I started pulling at so many threads, inevitably turning it into a Rob Ager-style dissertation with a profound analysis of design, perfectionism, creativity versus commercialism, the importance of art beyond mere function, Islander's evolution, market positioning, along with the philosophical and psychological implications behind, well, absolutely everything. And no matter how much I edited it, it still remained a damning indictment on the sausage making. It's one thing to say that a watch is a little uninspired or pedestrian even, but it's quite another to break it down so empirically it essentially becomes a horologically themed autopsy.
How do you feel about joining me in the Big Apple for an autopsy?
Ever wondered what Hannibal Lecter whispered to multiple MiGs in the next cell? Well, you get the picture.
Sounds charming.
Not exactly the behaviour of a friend, especially when you consider those observations are shared online forever. Recently I watched a great video, and I highly recommend it, by George Rocco Schmidt on adaptation, and has a lot of parallels to here. He was talking about books being made into films and why sometimes they don't work. Got me thinking a lot about Mozart. Why is Mozart remembered and Salieri isn't, until Milos Forman came along and told the story in Amadeus again.
The Book of A Clockwork Orange is often praised for its use of creative, Russian-ish slang, and that appears in the film. But that isn't why the film is interesting, or dare I say, artistically superior. The film's world is painted with a fine brush and a more considered hand, but critically dispenses with the book's last chapter entirely, and it's far more impactful because of it. Sometimes, sticking to the source material is a good idea, sometimes it's a bad idea. This is art. There are no hard rules that are applicable all of the time. It's all a rich tapestry, blah blah blah.
Feels more like, God, this is terrible to say, but I have to be honest. It's like an AI interpretation of the Flightmaster. It feels a little sterile, it feels clinical. So what are the actual physical negatives? Well, I think the case back is a missed opportunity. The lighthouse for me doesn't work. In this one, he could have had a Tomcat. There are plenty of public domain images or just have the outline of a jet or something to that effect. Secondly, it's way too chunky. Something I love about the Aerospace. When you got a quartz movement, it doesn't have to be be as thick because, you know, there's no rotors or all the rest of it. Again, another missed opportunity. There's nothing like a slender, comfortable, light tool watch. One of the many reasons that the Aerospace is so compelling. Lack of applied logo, you know, in the Flighty you have Seiko there. It kind of balances that negative space on that side of the dial. And also, I'm not a fan of how the slope of the chapter ring is quite steep. It doesn't have that gentle slope that really plays with the distortions of the hard legs. Now, I'm sure some of you will say, with all my fancy hand hearts and navi timers and such, it's simply because it's an entry-level watch. Well, if you saw my last video on that NASA-used Casio MRW, it's abundantly evident how giddy and childlike I get over a $20 watch, as if I'm 8 years old and just got a new Lego castle for Christmas. So it's definitely not value related. Another possibility is, and cue the Mad Men clip from my video essay on the power of nostalgia.
Nostalgia literally means the pain from an old wound. It's a twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memory alone.
It's entirely possible that the potency of my own sentimentality for the Flighty has clouded my judgment. Because you see, it's impossible to artificially imbue a Proustian Madeleine emotional connection that only comes from experience into a new watch. The only exceptions being gifts from loved ones or grail and commemorative watch purchases. And those are always forged with ownership by the buyer or wearer, collector, whatever, and not by the watchmaker. So I'm a watch collector that loves historicity, a story behind the watch, right? And Mark has not only inadvertently chosen to go up against one of the pioneers of the chronograph as we know it, especially the quartz chronograph, but a brand that has one of the longest and richest and most unique histories when it comes to aviation watches that's spanned 90 years. So when you go up against that kind of competition, you got to damn well make sure that whatever you make is going to kick ass and be all out of gum.
Then it struck. They call it kamikaze, meaning the divine tempests. Manned by pilots wearing the ceremonial red sash of the kamikaze corps.
American pilots try to stop them in roller coaster dogfights. Navy gunners try to derail them in white-knuckle, high-speed combat, sometimes close enough to see each other's faces.
From the infamous kamikaze watches of the 1940s...
Oh, Commander Bond.
Call me James.
To adorning the wrist of an inappropriately aged James Bond in the 80s, innovative design with Giorgetto Giugiaro, then prestigiously being issued to the British Royal Air Force during the 90s, simply naming a watch after an airport in Long Island is not exactly going to cut it in this David and Goliath situation. And that's not even mentioning the mechanical side of things, with space-going pogues and one of the earliest automatic chronographs ever. But there is one thing that can make up for it, and that's truly compelling design. While it rights the wrongs of the old Flighty with technical improvements, there's nothing new on the table. This is then compounded by terrible timing, and we're not talking accuracy. As Seiko's domestic nemesis, Citizen, recently updated their affordable aviation heavy hitters with a trio of 40mm ProMaster Navihawks for around the same price, showing you exactly what can be achieved with a little bit of inspired, nuanced design. Maybe I mistakenly presumed that after the Rangemaster 2 and the completion of the Rangemaster trilogy, while it certainly was a divisive Marmite watch and ultra challenging to achieve, like every watch we collaborated on, it undeniably did something not done before. And I naively thought this was the start of a new era for Islander, a kind of renaissance for the brand, I guess. I mean, even the Sid Mead-inspired aesthetic worked with the Windows 95 era corporate Islander logo that so many detest. However, what followed was sadly more derivative homaging. But there is a silver lining to this story, and this is where Islander is so badly needed within our increasingly doomed watch world. The Calverton serves as a respectable, affordable antidote to all the ignominious scam brands trading on AliExpress. That with affiliate link-driven fake reviews flood ShieldTube these days in an entry price point crucial to the long-term growth of the watch industry. Very few people ever go from no watch or a smartwatch to suddenly a luxury watch. There needs to be an equally priced equivalent to convert the masses. Now, I will never endorse those brands on AliExpress, as that platform operates in a way beyond legal accountability, and with so many horror stories of unserviceability, poor customer care, QC issues, and many other more disturbing, shady manufacturing practices, it could all inspire an expose worthy of the great Roberto Saviano. Now, you might be getting a great deal on a cloned Submariner or Navitimer or Willard or whatever, but for the long term, it's simply not worth it. Especially when you consider that the Calverton is priced for not much more than a Moonswatch, with a quality immeasurably higher compared to basically a bioceramic Happy Meal toy. And at the end of the day, the Calverton is a good watch, and love them or loathe them, from a trusted, professional, real brand you can depend on. And for most people, that's all they really ever need or want at the affordable level. So out of the four, I like the blue the most. I think that will probably be the most successful. At the end of my videos, I tend to say onwards and upwards, and it's kind of a personal mantra about aspiration, not necessarily about wealth or anything like that. It could be anything, but it's about maintaining that discipline of always improving, always learning, always having that autodidactic approach to life. This watch is more onwards and onwards, right? And I think that sums it up. I'm going to leave it there. Sorry, Mark. Oh dear. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, what he got right, got wrong, all that good stuff. Please don't forget to like this video, especially if you want to see more free and truly independent content. I can see in your comments who likes the videos. YouTube actually tells me, so I will prioritize those comments with replies. So don't forget to like the video. Best way to help. Anyway, onwards and truly upwards. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Ciao. Oh God, Mark is gonna kill me. Mark is gonna absolutely kill me. Oh God.